31 minutes away from touchdown of Columbia on runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center. Columbia now passing the point referred to as entry interface at an altitude of 400,000 feet. Columbia traveling at a speed 25 times the speed of sound, a Mach 25. Currently about 4,900 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center. This track will see Columbia cross over Baja California and the Gulf of California, cross over Mexico and the very southern tip of Texas before passing out over the Gulf of Mexico and making landfall over the western coast of Florida, heading in for a landing at runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center. On board, all systems on Columbia continuing to perform well. Just 30 minutes away from ending a record-setting mission. 28 minutes from touchdown now, Columbia at a distance of 4,060 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center, still traveling at just under 25 times the speed of sound. Columbia now high over the Pacific Ocean on a track that will see it pass over Baja California, much of northern Mexico and the southern tip of Texas as it continues to move toward a landing at runway 33 this morning. Touchdown time estimated at 5:49 a.m. Central Time. 25 minutes to touchdown at the Kennedy Space Center, just about 6 minutes after Columbia has encountered the very first traces of the atmosphere at entry interface, an altitude of 400,000 feet. Temperatures on the vehicle will continue to climb as Columbia moves through the atmosphere, ultimately reaching temperatures of about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, which will be dissipated by the thermal tiles and blankets on board Columbia. Columbia continuing to have about a 40-degree angle of attack, exposing the belly of the orbiter and its heat-resistant tiles to much of the heat of reentry.
Houston, you are go for PTIs Q-bar 40.
Roger, Q-bar 40 will enable PTIs.
Good read.
Columbia continuing its approach toward the western edge of Baja California, currently high over the Pacific Ocean at an altitude of about 236,000 feet, currently 2,600 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center with 22 minutes remaining before touchdown. Columbia will continue to drop speed as it begins to encounter the effects of the denser levels of the Earth's atmosphere. Columbia now traveling at 15,700 miles per hour. 1 minutes from touchdown, Columbia now crossing over the western coast of Baja California as it continues to head toward a landing at runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center this morning. Columbia now traveling at 15,000 miles per hour at an altitude of 227,000 feet. Columbia is currently 2,100 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center on a course that will see it cross over Baja California, much of northern Mexico and the southern tip of Texas as it continues to head toward a landing at 5:49 a.m. Central Time today. We'll hope to burn off excess speed as Columbia continues to approach the landing site, runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center. Columbia now traveling at about 14,000 miles per hour at an altitude of about 225,000 feet. Range from the Kennedy Space Center currently 1,700 miles. 6 minutes, it's possible we will receive views from the pilot's point of view camera, which is mounted just to the left and behind of pilot Kent Rominger, providing the same view that the crew aboard Columbia will see during the final few moments of their flight as they approach and land at the Kennedy Space Center this morning. Columbia's flight control surfaces become active with about half a pound of pressure per square foot of dynamic pressure on the vehicle. The aileron and elevon currently active. As the dynamic pressure increases, all flight control surfaces will become active, with the exception of Columbia's rudder, which becomes active at about Mach 5. Columbia currently traveling at about Mach 19 as it continues to head for a landing this morning at the Kennedy Space Center. Time to touchdown now, just 17 minutes. Columbia currently downrange from the Kennedy Space Center at a distance of about 1,300 miles. Half minutes away from landing, Columbia passing out over the Gulf of Mexico, continuing on course for a landing this morning at the Kennedy Space Center. Columbia currently 984 miles from the Kennedy Space Center at an altitude of 37 miles, traveling at 11,000 miles per hour. Columbia is now out over the Gulf of Mexico at an altitude of 34 miles, some 660 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center, traveling at the speed of 9,000 miles per hour. Time to touchdown now, just 13.5 minutes. Columbia now miles away from the Kennedy Space Center, traveling at 6,800 miles per hour. Columbia is descending at the rate of 130 miles per hour, heading for a landing.
Houston, we have you through Mila.
Line clear, Houston.
Columbia, Houston, take TAC hands.
Taking TAC hands.
347 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center, Columbia is now receiving navigation aid through 3 redundant tactical navigation aids aboard the orbiter. Columbia traveling at a speed of 5,500 miles per hour. Time to touchdown now, 10 minutes.
Columbia, Houston, energy, ground track, and nav are go.
Roger. Energy, ground track, nav, go.
The flight control team is now tracking Columbia with ground radar, confirming Columbia's location and position in preparation for landing. Columbia is now at an altitude of 27 miles, traveling at the speed of 5,000 miles per hour, currently 271 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center. Time to touchdown, 10 minutes. Columbia is traveling at 6 times the speed of sound, Mach 6, but at about Mach 5, the crew will begin to deploy the air data probes. That information will be evaluated by the flight controllers, with the guidance and navigation officer here in Mission Control making a call that the crew can then begin to take air data and incorporate that information into Columbia's navigation system. Range to touchdown now, 218 miles. Time to touchdown, 9 minutes, 20 seconds. And this view as Columbia is currently 160 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center at an altitude of 22 miles, traveling at 5 times the speed of sound. This is from the pilot's point of view camera mounted just to the left and behind of pilot Kent Rominger as Columbia continues to travel at a speed of 3,100 miles per hour, headed for a touchdown at runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center in just 8 minutes. Columbia just completing another in a series of roll maneuvers to burn off excess energy as it approaches the landing site. Now just 7 minutes 40 seconds away from touchdown, still traveling at a speed of 2,700 miles per hour, 120 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center.
Houston, we're ready for air data.
Columbia, Houston, take air data.
Taking air data.
The air data probes will provide Columbia's general purpose computers with some increased information on dynamic pressure, airspeed, and altitude as it refines its navigation information. Columbia now just 6 minutes 40 seconds away from landing, traveling at a speed of 2,000 miles per hour. Altitude is 17 miles, range to touchdown 81 miles. This view once again from the pilot's point of view camera looking through the pilot's window of Columbia. As Columbia continues another bank maneuver as it approaches the Kennedy Space Center.
Columbia, Houston, we show you on nominal energy at tame interface. No change to weather. Winds are 220 at 4 peak 6. That's 2 on the tail and 5 from the left. Nominal shoot deploy. And your PAPIs and ball bars are on dusk dawn setting.
That all sounds good, Kurt. Nominal shoot deploy.
Columbia is now flying 2 times the speed of sound, burning off any remaining excess energy and positioning itself for a landing on runway 33 at the Kennedy Space Center. Time to touchdown now 5 minutes 20 seconds. Range to touchdown 69 miles. This view again from Columbia's pilot point of view camera as Columbia continues its approach to the Kennedy Space Center. Four and a half minutes from touchdown. Columbia now at an altitude of 10 miles, traveling at the speed of 800 miles per hour. Range to touchdown 69 miles. Again, this view from the pilot's point of view camera looking through the pilot's window of Columbia as it continues to approach the Kennedy Space Center. Columbia descending at the rate of 9 miles per hour. Three minutes 50 seconds from landing. Commander Ken Cockrell now flying Columbia manually as Columbia goes subsonic. Columbia is now visible on the infrared camera from the Kennedy Space Center as it continues its approach. Sonic booms heralding the arrival of Columbia into the vicinity of the Kennedy Space Center.
Columbia, Houston, on at the 180.
Roger.
2 minutes 43 seconds from touchdown. Columbia now at an altitude of 4 miles, just 14 miles away from the Kennedy Space Center, traveling at a speed of 451 miles per hour. Commander Ken Cockrell now flying a right overhead turn.
Columbia, Houston, on at the 90.
Roger. Houston, we have the runway.
Copy, runway inside.
Commander Ken Cockrell reporting the runway is now in sight as Columbia continues its approach to runway 33, traveling at the speed of 400 miles per hour at an altitude of 3 miles. Range to touchdown now, 9 miles. One minute to touchdown now. Columbia traveling at the speed of 385 miles per hour at an altitude of just under 1 mile. Range to touchdown now, 4 miles. Commander Ken Cockrell continuing to fly manually as Columbia approaches the landing start. Landing gear is down and locked. Main gear touchdown. Drag chute deploy. And nose gear touchdown. Columbia rolling out on runway 33, concluding a record-setting shuttle mission of 17 days, 15 hours, and 53 minutes.
Houston, Columbia, wheel stop.
Roger, Columbia. Copy, will stop. Welcome home after your record-setting mission. Stand by for post-landing deltas.
Thanks, Kurt. It was a fantastic mission. We feel privileged to have been part of it.
And can we share your feelings? And there are no changings for post-landing. You're cleared to pick up on page 3. Correction, page 5-3.
Roger, 5-3.
You see now the fan being turned on to vent away from the orbiter. Fumes which may be around the vehicle.
Houston for Taco, we're now ready for the BFS mode switch to standby.
Okay, BFS to standby.
Here they come. There's our Commander Ken Cockrell, followed by Tammy Jernigan, Story Musgrave, Tom Jones, and Kent Rominger. Being greeted at the bottom of the stairway by NASA Space Shuttle Launch Director Jim Harrington. Tom Jones, Ken Cockrell, Story Musgrave, Tammy Jernigan, and Kent Rominger.